Hi, how's it going? I am Joseph Tomans. I'm in English Composition 1 for spring semester, and for my research paper, they wanted me to interview for the subject of sustainability for a topic of my choice. I chose the topic of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and in the introduction, it's suggested to interview somebody that is increasingly knowledgeable about this, so I figured, why not interview my own teacher? So this is Troy Holton, and
Hey.
you mind giving your a little bit of background about yourself?
I've been training. I'm a 33-year retired police officer. Been training jiu-jitsu since I was 17. Well, jiu-jitsu since 2005, martial arts since I was 17. So that's just to the chase.
Okay. So I have a couple questions for you, and your answers can be short, they can be long.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. First question: in all your years of not just trained BJJ, but teaching the sport, what practices do you feel offer the best sustaining a healthy and productive training environment?
Basics.
Basics.
I'm about 60. I'll be 60 this year, and all the high-level instructors I've ever trained with, basics, because the sustainability of what Joe does and what I do are two different things. They're just, he does the high-level stuff. My body at 60 just is not geared towards that, but the basics you can take with you forever. So
Great, awesome. Second question I got for you: in your experience, what would you say has the most reliable material and sustainable equipment and gear for prolonged training? This can be like our gis or.
well, here we don't require you to buy a gi from us. Buy a gi that's affordable to use. So some of the guys, like our cameraman, wears an Origin, which is a high-level gi. I've got one of these thanks to Joe, but I've probably had this gear, or this one, 10 years at least. So just good solid gear, and then knee pads are good for prolonged preventative joint aches and that kind of thing.
Third question I got for you: what would be your opinion on training while recovering from an injury?
As you know, Joe's had a lot of it. We get, even though we're not, our students compete, but we're not deemed a competitive school as far as we go to competitions every week. It's just not something I'm interested in. But like, we got a competition coming up and 4 of our students are going. That's fine. We'll all go, rally by them and support them. So when you're injured, tell your training partner, tell your instructor, although I might forget and you have to remind me. So you wanna, like, some will just drill the first 30 minutes and coach the rest of the time. Others will drill the whole time. I've trained with a lot of Brazilians, and what they do the whole hour if they're hurt is drill. They will just drill. Or what we call flow roll, which is just a give and take of a drill. You're not worried about getting hurt or somebody really hard to go against. And if you have that in your mindset, don't request your instructor not to put you with that person that goes a little harder. You know, I do have those students, so that's fine.
Awesome. Now, fourth one. This one's kind of a two-parter. Reflecting on your own journey in this sport, what's your opinion would be of a short and long-term perspective of BJJ? How would you talk to someone that is just chasing the stripes and belts rather than enjoying their own journey?
I've never had that student, to be honest with you, chasing their own stripes. But I've had students, as you know, that are just out for themselves. Yeah. They don't last here. They don't last in the sport. They quit. They move on quite a bit from one coach to another coach. They always find fault rather than looking internally. So I've never had those students at a sustained level that are just chasing stripes or belts. Most of my students are like, aren't I due for something? Or I'll look and I said, how long have you been in that rank? And My own instructor is way bad at that. He's like, oh, you've been that for that long. I got to make a list. So even at his school, which is a highly competitive school in Little Rock, they don't keep up with it because he's got 350 students. So, and then he's got 20 affiliate. So it's hard to keep up with. So you just keep in contact with your coach and make sure what I do now is on their list when they come in. I have when they're due for a promotion as far as length and time, and then that's reflective on their attendance in class and their perception of the techniques in class. So that's one. What was the second part of that question? I know you had chasing belts, but.
So the second part, what's your opinion? What would be your opinion on short-term and long-term perspective of the sport?
Oh, like I said, I've been doing this since I was 17, martial arts in some way. Have fun. Don't worry about belts. Don't worry about anything involved in rank. It'll come. And if it comes too quick, you're in the wrong place. If it comes too late, you may be in the wrong place. Just make sure you have a place where you can grow. You guys are friends. There's no meatheads in the group, men or women, that you're always giving of yourself and your techniques, that you're not taking all the time. And this is just, should be a fun environment. I've taught cops for years because I believe if every cop was at least a blue belt, you would not have excessive force at all in law enforcement. I've taught cops for years how to apply jiu-jitsu to their everyday life in law enforcement and out. So I'm a big believer in it. So.
Okay. And before the last question, could you emphasize the belt meanings in your mind? White, blue, purple. Do you have because you mentioned every cop should be a blue belt,
right,
and everything. Could you mention like what pertains to the belts in like a really shortened version?
Yeah, white belt is the most important belt because that means you walked in the door and you're training. You lose most people. I know some schools teach that you only do defense. You don't even roll at white belt. We don't do that. You roll from day one. I believe it takes away from, there's different theologies to it and that kind of thing. But white belt, to me, you're learning the techniques, you're growing from your instructors and your students, and then you go to blue belt. That means you've mastered the entry-level arts. So blue belt is where you lose a lot of students. They get there, it takes about a year or year and a half to get a blue belt. And that is where you're kind of growing and finding your game. I'm never going to take away from somebody what they look for. I had one student one time, got a blue belt, and he was just after knee bars. That's all he did, knee bars. I've had some students just Kimuras, and that was their game. And I didn't say go to this or go to that, because they'll find that in there as they travel through this journey. Then purple belt, they say a purple belt is just a black belt that hasn't had the time in. I would agree with that. You are really finding your game at purple belts. There are purple belts out there that will tap a black belt, a brown belt. There's blue belts out there that'll do that. Depends on the school they're at. Brown belt, you are really honing your what you want to do in jiu-jitsu. Some people want to become an instructor. Joe's a good instructor, a good coach. Some people have no desire to teach others. That's kind of not what we do here. Everybody teaches a little bit here.
It's nice to share the knowledge.
Yeah, there you go. It's nice to share their knowledge. So brown belt is very important. It was important to me. I spent 5 years as a brown belt, 5 years as a white belt. So 10 years of my jiu-jitsu journey just alone was white and brown belt. Black belt, I've been a black belt for 3 years, and what I learned in black belt is you learn more about yourself as a black belt. I want to get better at teaching. I want to be better at coaching. I want to be better at guiding my students up. I'm not worried about my game. It is what it is. You're not as good as you once were. That is a true statement. But if you can grow from where you're at, you're good. But I know there's different journeys for different people, and that means there's different journeys for every belt. So I know a lot of students will sandbag, as you know. They'll stay at one belt for years so they can get as many trophies and medals as they can. That's really not the journey. That's not where you're going with this. Elio Gracie was where I started jiu-jitsu, and that is, he was 90 still doing jiu-jitsu. Gracie Baja, where I also had a relationship with that till I was brown belt. That was Elio's brother. He was very good, and long into his advanced years, he taught and coached. And then Fada was where I'm at now under Rolly. He is another guy from Brazil that was just a leg locker. I mean, that's what they did, all legs and everything else too, but they were confident in their leg attack. So that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu. You can take it anywhere you want to go. That's what I like about it. It's not so regimented as katas and, that kind of thing. I hate katas. But anyway, I'll tell you this much, if you can get a black belt earlier than 3.5 years, and that doesn't matter any style, you're in a McDojo. You're in the wrong place. They're not going to teach you anything but how to lose your moral compass, in my opinion. Also, we don't give black belts to kids. You can't even get a blue belt until you're 16 in jiu-jitsu. So that keeps it real, as they say. So
because the kids system, you can start training at 4 years old. I intend to put my own son in jiu-jitsu at 4, but they have their own set of belts, and it tops out at green belt. And then when you turn 16, that's when you restart and you're back at blue belt. You don't start white belt, but yep.
Yeah, you have to be 16. So
okay. And lastly, how has BJJ affected you physically and mentally?
Physically, it hurts. We say it's like folding laundry with people in them. So, but you're going to get bumps and bruises if you do anything that you're not accustomed to. That's just part of life. I know people that's fallen out of tree stands, and I hunt, I fish, I do all that. Then there's bumps and bruises there. So, having said that, you're going to get bumps and bruises. You just got to watch yourself and make sure you're not going overboard. Check your teammate, make sure they're not going overboard, and just check that. As far as, what was the other part? Mentally. I've never seen a therapist. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I thank jiu-jitsu and martial arts for that. I probably should see a therapist at times. There's nothing wrong with that, but mental health, I hang around a lot of young people being in here. I'm always the oldest. It makes me feel good to be around that and around their energy. And we've got people in here from teens to 60. So there's one other student, he's a brown belt, and he's my age. So I say mentally, you do an hour of class, you don't think of anything else. All whatever was bothering you during the day goes away, in my opinion. At least that's what I hear, and that's what happens to me when I'm here. So you don't think about anything but the present. And that's good for your mind. So that's what's kept me healthy, I'd say, mentally and physically.
And I know I said 5 questions. I got one more short one. For somebody that is curious about jiu-jitsu, what would you tell them to have them think about, I'm going to try one class?
come on. I mean, the hardest thing to do is step in the door. You're afraid you're going to get hurt, you're going to be beat up, people are not going to like you. Everybody here will introduce themselves to you. They're friendly, they want to be your friend, they want to help you grow in this. They all want you to love jiu-jitsu. The first hardest step is that first class. And the first class is free. Come on.
All right. Well, this is my teacher in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, who I'm currently a 2-stripe brown belt coach under Troy Holton. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Joe will probably be my first black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
All right.
Good.
Appreciate it.
Without a hitch.
Yeah.